with the study of the third chapter of the Gita. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kansachanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Much discussion takes place on the two questions, or to be more precise, the one question expressed in two verses by Arjuna at the beginning of this third chapter. The one question expressed in two verses boils down to, why should I do karma? Why not I go directly to jnana? Or some people also preferred a possibility where Arjuna could do karma and jnana together. In the tradition of Advaita Vedanta, championed by Sri Adi Shankaracharya, this carrying together is not possible. It is logically impossible and one cannot go directly also to jnana. Therefore, Arjuna can neither carry both karma and jnana together, nor jump to jnana, short-circuiting, taking a shortcut through karma yoga. Therefore, at a number of places, Bhagavan Sri Krishna makes it clear that Arjuna, and like him, a whole lot of us, have to stay with karma yoga until we become truly prepared. We saw Sri Krishna's reply also in the third shloka. Lokesmin dvividha nishta pura prokta maya nagha jnana yogena sankhyanam karma yogena yoginam. In this world, from time immemorial, living beings have either belonged to jnana yoga or karma yoga. Those with enough of viveka and vairagya go for jnana yoga. They are always a small minority. Those with less of viveka, less of vairagya, have to settle for karma yoga, and they are in vast majority. We saw the meanings of the words in this shloka, and we saw two paragraphs of Shankara Bhāshya also on this verse. In the first paragraph, the words of the shloka explained what is jnana yoga, what is sankhya, what is karma yoga, who is a yogi. All this has been already explained. For example, the word yogi here represents karmi. Nothing to do with the Patanjali yoga in this context. Karmi, one who has to be in the field of one's duties. One has to learn the art of performing one's duties, religious and secular, with no egoistic or selfish expectations. One has to really arm oneself with the expertise of service-mindedness. Only when there is letting go of the ego and a high degree of service-mindedness, one is poised for jnana yoga. Otherwise, it would be an utter failure. The second paragraph talked about why not Sri Krishna permit Arjuna, for Arjuna is such a close friend, to perform both karma and jnana. He can be very strict about others, but for his best friend, maybe he can make a concession, an exception. Adi Shankara said, if Bhagavan does that, if Sri Krishna does that, that would mean Sri Krishna's own credibility would go down. Sri Krishna would then be looked at as having, like any of us does, likes and dislikes. The problem of partiality would come up, and in the process, Bhagavan Sri Krishna would not anymore be reliable. That is not acceptable. He is God Supreme with the purest outlook towards all. Therefore, Ragadveshavan Bhagavan Kalpyeta Apramana Bhutaha Bhagavan Kalpitaha Syat. He would no more be Pramana. Pramana meaning means of knowledge. Pramana meaning a reliable source for guidance. That reputation has to remain unshaken with regard to Sri Krishna. Before proceeding to the fourth shloka, we'll quickly take a look at a third and the last paragraph in Adi Shankara's commentary on this third shloka. Mancha bandhakarane karmani eva niyojayasi iti vishanna manasam arjunam karma na arabe ityevam manvanam alakshya aha Bhagavan. Bhagavan continues to teach alakshya, looking at, considering Arjuna, who is vishanna with a mind that is much depressed. He longs to go straight to Jnana Yoga, leave all this karma, these duties, which seem to be a wild goose chase. No matter how much you do, you seem to get back to square one. No matter how much you serve the society seems to remain unchanged. Therefore, all our sweat and toil are a waste. And why should we lose time? Why not I go direct to Jnana Yoga, which is the gateway to liberation? But that has been not permitted by Sri Krishna. Therefore, like the very first chapter was titled also, Arjuna Vishada Yoga. The adjective form of it is Vishanna. One who is in Vishada is Vishanna. Vishanna manasam Arjunam aha Bhagavan. Or there is a possibility Arjuna wanted to do both. Athava jnana karma nishtayoho paraspara virodha. They have a contradiction. To say in one sentence yet again, to belong to Jnana Yoga requires letting go of all identifications. Family identification, religious, communal, linguistic, national, and so on. Therefore, you see, wise people on higher levels of teaching regard even nationalism as a poison. Every country encourages citizens to be with their country, our country, right or wrong, and other countries have to be subservient to us. That kind of one-upmanship called nationalism is strongly criticized by saints who see things from way above. It is one thing to care for your country, care for your surroundings, for everything has to begin where you are, but one must not have hatred towards neighboring countries or so-called other countries. this country, this business of country is to be looked at as a certain practical necessity, a certain convenience for transactions, but one should not make a mountain out of a molehill. One should not overly attach importance to one being a citizen of this or that country. Then a lot of injustice would take place at the hands of one if one regards one's own nation as above everything else. Suppose there is a humanitarian crisis in a different country, a dharmic citizen would feel for those people, no matter what their culture is, what their language is, what their religion is, and so on. A dharmic praja cannot say, oh, who are they suffering without food or drink? Oh, they are from another country, right? Let them die. No, that would be adharma. Nationalism tends to push people towards that kind of indifference to the suffering of others on the earth and undue emphasis on one's own country. So, on all levels, you and I have identifications. Jnana Yoga requires that we let go of those identifications. In technical terms, we get going with no kartrutva bhava. I am a karta, I am a doer, I am of such and such personality, I have such strengths and shortcomings. All this is to be bundled up and put aside. Those who want to walk the path of Jnana Yoga, the Jnana that sets you free. We are not talking of a whole lot of other kinds of Jnana here. This Jnana is Atmanishta, on way to Atmanishta. This Jnana is what gives you abidance in your pure self. For that, you have to look at yourself as Sat Chit only. Keep rest of it to bare minimum. Some transactions are part of life, but keeping all of them bare minimum or keeping all of them as secondary, very much secondary. You must anchor yourself primarily in the contemplation of I am pure existence, pure awareness. I am not this body at all in the first place. If you take yourself to be this body, then the body has so many relationships, so many descriptions. If you take yourself to be the mind, then all that business of shortcomings and strengths, what is that? SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, etc. All of them will come into the picture if you take yourself to be the body. Jnana Yoga requires letting go of I am the body idea. Karma Yoga, on the contrary, requires you to regard yourself as son of such and such family, as daughter of such and such parents, as holding such responsible position, your social position, your linguistic belonging, your region, whether you are from the east or the west, all that has a place, necessarily a place to discharge your duties as a karma yogi. Therefore, it's almost like in Jnana Yoga, you need to put brakes, and in Karma Yoga, you need to press the accelerator, press the gas pedal. And no one can press both accelerator and brakes together. You want to speed up or you want to slow down, decide. So they are opposite to each other. So Shankara says, Atava jnana karma nishtayoho paraspara virodat ekena purushena yugapat anushtatum ashakyatve sati. A single practitioner, yugapat means at the same time. cannot practice both karma yoga and jnana yoga. Itaretar anapekshayoreva purushartha hetutve prapte. In a sense, both of them are hetu, are causes, are capable of leading us to purushartha, even the parama purushartha, moksha. How? In their own way. How? Adi Shankara explains. Karmanishtayaha jnananishta prapti hetutvena purushartha hetutvam na swatantrena. Karma Yoga also, please don't underestimate it. Karma Yoga also leads you to the Purushartha, the Parama Purushartha, Moksha. How? Because it prepares the ground for you to be ready, fit for Jnana Nishta, and therefore indirectly, via media, Karma Yoga leads you to liberation by preparing you for Jnana Yoga and Jnana Nishta. Na swatantrena. No compromise with this principle that Karma Yoga, swatantrena means independently, by itself, cannot lead to liberation. Jnana Nishta tu, those of us who have enhanced Viveka and Vairagya and therefore go for Jnana Nishta. Jnana Nishta tu Karma Nishta Upaya Labdhatmika Sati. Yes, it came into being because of the Karma Nishta Upaya. At one time, today's Jnana Yogis, at one time were Karma Yogis. Through their Karma Yoga, which they used as an Upaya, they labdha, they got this Jnana Yoga, Yogyata. And therefore, once you have reached that Jnana Yoga, that by nature is such, swatantrena, independently, by itself, purushartha hetu. It is the cause, it is what facilitates the purushartha, liberation, anya anapeksha, without depending on anything else. Iti etamartham pradarshesyan aha Bhagavan. This is an introduction to the fourth verse also at the same time. Aha Bhagavan, it connects us now to the fourth shloka. Fourth shloka makes everything clearer and is almost like a warning to us. For whenever you and I hear some Vedanta, some Upanishad Vakya, we get an urge to leave everything. And whether we realize it or not, whether we notice it or not, there would be normally some indifference, insensitivity. You let go of your duties and somebody will suffer. And if it is brought to your notice, you will say, or maybe you won't say openly, but in your heart, who cares? I have done enough for her. I have done enough for him. I have done enough for this family, these people. Now if they suffer, God has to handle it directly, etc. Some indifference, some unwillingness to reach out and extend a hand of help, that will come up. Therefore, the fourth verse is a warning. Don't you do that. If you hurriedly, hastily, prematurely let go of Karma Yoga, you will neither help others nor help yourself. Therefore, don't take moksha to come about by simply letting go of our duties. The fourth shloka is indeed a word of caution. Na karmanam anarambhat naishkarmyam purushoshnute nacha sanyasanad eva siddhim samadhigacchati. No. Sri Krishna dismisses one after another various possibilities. First of all, he knows that in this world there are a lot of half-baked scholars who read up a little bit and then say, we are now going to just contemplate on Brahman. We are just going to be recluses. We are going to be totally unengaged in matters of the world. The world is for all these ordinary people. We are a step above. Some kind of bhranti, some brahma, some delusion comes over some people, and they tend to not take up any work thereafter. Karmanam anaramba. Aramba means taking up. Anaramba, not taking up karma. They think that liberation will just happen. Lord Krishna warns us, karmanam anarambat naishkarmyam na adhigacchati or na ashnute. Purushaha, any seeker, lady or man, will not come upon naishkarmya. Naishkarmya in this context is another name for liberation, another name for Atma-jnana, Atma-nishtha. Sureshwaracharya, the most prominent among the four well-known and direct disciples of Adi Shankaracharya, wrote a famous work, Naishkarmya Siddhi. Naishkarmya Siddhi is supposed to be one of the very, very authentic works on Advaita Vedanta. Authentic in the sense, there are certain very learned people who say that these Prakarana Granthas, like Atma Bodhar, Tattva Bodhar, Viveka Chudamani and so on, they may be popular, they may be very delightful in their own ways, but they do not have that rigor. They do not do justice to the nuances, to the subtle aspects of Advaita Vedanta as beautifully as Naishkarmya Siddhi does. Naishkarmya Siddhi also is a Prakarana Grantha by Sureshwaracharya. But though it is a Prakarana Grantha, it has such accuracy, it has such perfection in it, comparable with Adi Shankara's commentaries themselves. Therefore, great scholar saints like Swami Sachidanandendra Saraswati, who had set up a center in Bangalore and in another place in Karnataka, he considers Naishkarmya Siddhi as the most reliable Prakarana Grantha. In many other Prakarana Granthas, he has marked some shlokas which, according to him, are not in accordance with Shankara Bhāshya. So, Naishkarmya Siddhi is a great work, not Upanishad, it is not Gita, it is an independent work. Therefore, we call it a Prakarana Grantha and attributed to Adi Sureshwaracharya, who it is believed was the first pontiff of Sringeri Matha, of the four Amnayas that Adi Shankara established. One in the south called Dakshinamnaya, as you know, is in Sringeri in Karnataka. And the first Mathadipati was Sureshwaracharya, they say. All right. What does Naishkarmya mean in that title, in the very name of that work? It is Moksha, Moksha Siddhihi, Atma-jnana Siddhihi, Brahmanishta Siddhihi. So Naishkarmya is liberation. By not starting karma, by just staying aloof, looking at others who are working, and as though that is not enough, that kind of aloofness is not enough. Sometimes these people look down at people who are working. These yogis, they are like in some organizations, there is a lot of distinction between seniors and juniors. We are seniors and these juniors have to do all those things. We don't touch those works and so on. Distinction, sense of superiority and so on. So they don't do karma and they look down at people who do karma. That is not good. Someone who is fit for Jnana Yoga does not look down at anybody. That thought doesn't arise in him. It's not that there are no differences. There may be differences. But someone who is in Jnana Yoga has better things to think about than time and again looking at somebody. He is junior, I am senior. He is less learned, I am more learned. His chanting is not so good. I chant much better. My Sanskrit is better. My meditation is better, blah, blah. So I am better, she is less. This thought doesn't come. The Jnana Yogi meditates without comparing with anybody. In fact, without comparing with himself also, how he did yesterday. Because the moment you, through thought, visualize what I was, what I am, what I will be, that visualization creates the ego. It reinforces the ego. It strengthens every bit of your individual identity. Therefore, it is said in Parabhakti also, love God and just love God with no other ideas. If a tiny idea, a trace of a thought comes in your mind, I love God so much. In this town, I don't think anybody else loves Sri Krishna so much as I do. God. Sri Krishna would smile and would teach you a lesson in very next day. Moment you think, I love Lord Krishna more than others. God. Though it may be true, your love may be unparalleled, but you have no business to entertain a thought like that. Even if somebody makes a remark, you may just thank you for saying that. Acknowledge and forget it next moment. Don't cling to it the whole evening. Today, so many people praised me as the best devotee of Sri Krishna in this colony. Finally, they recognized me, you see, etc. So please see the difference. To be a true lover of God is wonderful. But to think I am the best lover of God is a problem. Like that in Jnana Yoga also, this Naishkarmya is being free of any idea of I am a doer. And by outwardly stopping some activities, some actions, performance of duties, na ashnute, you do not enjoy liberation. And nacha sanyasanadeva, formally, if you just let go of your duties. I have stopped because I have taken sannyas, somebody says. Well, you went and begged somebody and somebody gave you sannyas. By all those rituals or some outer mechanisms, you don't arrive at this Atmajnana. Siddhi here means the highest Atmajnana. Therefore, one should neither hastily stop nor hastily formalize renunciation. Renunciation should happen. True renunciation should come by like a flower blossoms at the right time, fruits come about at the right time. Or as D.V. Gundappa gives an excellent example of how renunciation takes place in anybody's life. He says, it is like how a book in the hands of somebody who is reading it at bedtime drops. The book drops from his hands as he just goes to sleep, maybe without even turning the lights off. And after some time, lights are on. Oh, I was reading that book. Oh, that has fallen. He smiles and just turns the lights off and goes to bed properly. Like a book drops off from a man feeling sleepy, reading that book at bedtime, renunciation, vairagya should happen. So, one must not force it. Sri Krishna says, Nacha sannyasana-deva. Adi Shankara first explains the words, Na karmanam anarambhat, karmanam kriyanam. Shankara is a custodian of the Vedic culture. In modern times, a lot of speakers do not refer to the Vedika karma at all because they cater to the audience. Hardly anyone knows anything about Vedas. Therefore, they straight away go into interpretation of karma, a secular work, social service, working for the society in so many ways, attending to the needs of food, shelter, clothing, health, and causes for the environment, and so on. They conveniently put the interpretation that karma can mean and does mean Vedika karma. That meaning they put it to the backseat. Gandhi, Vinoba, and a whole lot of people. They emphasized social service. Therefore, while we respect, not just respect, we revere M.K. Gandhi for a whole lot of divine qualities in him, we do not take him as a true representative of Vedanta. Nor do we take him, though he was in his own way an excellent Hindu, but we don't take him as a representative of Hinduism in its entirety. It's a beautiful dimension of Hinduism he lived, and therefore, every evening, no matter how much political pressures were upon his mind, he would do his prayers. He would sit in the bhajan. Even on the day he was assassinated, he was walking towards the bhajan platform. So, Raghupati Raghav, Raja Ram, and so on. So they are adorable. So we respect him highly. But he did not know Hinduism, which is a Vedic culture. Therefore, we take it with a pinch of salt. That is, he was great. He was a Mahatma in his own way. He was right. But you want to study Hindu Dharma. You want to study Sanatana Dharma. You want to study what are the foundational principles of Sanatana Dharma. You don't do that through a Mahatma Gandhi or for that matter even Vinoba Bhave. Though Vinoba Bhave perhaps was a bit more exposed to the Vedas. You want to know Sanatana Dharma, which is called Hinduism these days, you have to go to these acharyas. And you have to study those Chaturdasha Vidya Sthanani. Let these social reformers at places even criticize Smritis, Manusmriti and so on. It is because of their own ignorance sometimes. And then, rest of it, there is a lot of politics between various communities in the society. So they criticize, they burn some smritis like Manusmriti also. But the reason behind it is a lot of ignorance. We have to study the smritis, Shruti, Smriti, Ityasa, Purana, and Upavedas. There are 14 Vidya Sthanani. Not exhaustively, you must at least know the basics of these. Because Sanatana Dharma is a vast body of knowledge, of guidance to human life. And one cannot just make a sweeping statement, oh, I know what those books say, and so on, not make a face. So, Sri Shankaracharya gives the meaning as applicable to the Vedic culture. Karmanam, he says, primarily it is Kriyanam Yajna Adinam. Yajna, Yaga, in modern times also Sandhya Vandana, some Agnihotra, some occasional, what we call Nitya and Naimittika karmas. And Adi Shankara, again, doing justice to the true vision of Sanatana Dharma, not fighting shy about it, not avoiding for the sake of the audience, because the audience may not appreciate Punarjanma. Let me keep quiet on Punarjanma. That is a different approach. Let some leaders do it. God bless them. We understand why they do it. They may not talk about some issues because those issues don't go well with the audience. Sometimes some speakers say, oh, I go to places where my audiences have non-Hindus also. There are Christians, Muslims, and so on. Therefore, I have to choose what I say and so on. All right. Please go ahead, do what you are doing. But if you want to understand Sanatana Dharma in all its facets, then you at least should know why various prescriptions were made. Now, Adi Shankara represents the entire and pure Sanatana Dharma. He says, when karma is mentioned, karmanam anarambat, karma includes iha janmani, what is done in this life, and janmantareva. We have done karma in previous lives too. Anushtitanam. What good came from them? Well, if we have performed good karmas, if we had done whatever was prescribed for us, whatever our conscience also said. Other day after a talk of mine, somebody rightly asked the question, how do we decide these days what is right, what is dharma, what is our duty, what we should do in a certain scenario? This is a very famous shloka in Manusmriti, beginning, Vedo khilo dharma moolam, smriti shile chatadvidam. It talks about 4 criteria, and we also have to keep in mind the order. Most of us in modern times are not capable of checking out all these 4. But it's good to know that the standard procedure is to check out the 4. Vedaha, in a certain crisis, in some matter, you don't know whether I should do it or not do it, whether I should buy it or not buy it, whether I should sell it or not sell it, whether I should marry this person or not marry, whether I should travel abroad or not, whether I should go to the city, settle there, or remain in the village. Hundreds of moral conflicts arise in human life. The Manusmriti shloka, which is an eternal truth, says the Vedas are the source of the purest knowledge. Check out whether Vedas have thrown light on the conflict that you are going through. Sometimes, though Vedas have said everything, but it may not be explicit enough. You say that this one is too general. These Veda mantras, which I know at least, haven't gone to the specifics of my life situation. Then the shloka says Smriti. Smriti is the 18 Smritis. They are supposed to be 18 or some large number. Manusmriti, Adnavalke Smriti, Parashara Smriti, Gautama Smriti, and there are, So, study them. They go into a lot of details. And if required, you adapt them to your modern times. That's a different matter. But do not simply brush it aside. So, Vedaha, that is Shruti. Second is Smriti. But then, whatever you know of Smriti, or you consult somebody and look at the relevant shlokas, it doesn't really solve your problem. After all, you again say, but this is okay, but my situation, oh, I see, you are not satisfied. Then the third one is Sheela. Sheela means conduct of noble people. Conduct of people who are looked upon as having lived a right life. Those who sacrifice their comforts, their personal self-interest for a higher value. Of olden days or contemporary, at your time itself, there are some around you. Men or women of whatever caste, of whatever, it doesn't matter. But there are some people who you know about their life. Wow, that is how one should be. We are a long way to go before we are as morally sound as he is or as she is, right? So for Vedaha, Smriti, Sheelam. The Dvandva Samasa makes it Smriti Sheele. Smriti Sheele cha tadvidam. And in the second half, I don't remember the exact word, it makes room. Manusmriti is in its entirety very broad-minded. If you pick some shloka here and you pick some line there, you can make a big political issue of it. That's a different matter. But if you study very carefully and have a friendly dialogue with broad-minded Sattvic scholars, you will see what a terrific guidance it has for life. So last one is, which normally in modern times we put first. The Sanatana Dharma asks us to put it last, but there is room made for it. What is that? Inner voice. Your own inner voice. If Vedas are not able to guide you, guidance of Smriti also seems to fall short of what you need. Then the guidance available through examples of pious people, also with due respect to them, leaves you dissatisfied. Then ask, what does my inner voice say? And that inner voice can be then the deciding factor. When these three have failed. So, we have, let us say, done punya karma in the past lives. Anushtitanam. What good came of it? Upatta duritakshaya hetutvena. Those things have helped us. We may not realize. Upatta. We had acquired a lot of sin. Durita is sin. Kshaya. So these good works that we have performed or we had performed bring about kshaya. They bring down the sinful tendencies within us, which is also called sattva shuddhi karananam. That is called the purification of the inner equipment. Tat karanatvena. Thus, Satkarma, good karmas, being the cause for inner purification, tat karanattvena, jnana utpatti dvarena, jnana nishta hetunam. Karma becomes jnana nishta hetu. So indirectly they facilitate, or in due course of time, they bring about jnana nishta, abidance in the pure self. They slowly you will get insights. Slowly you will suddenly feel, yeah, what the scripture said and we studied all along is so true. I'm not this body actually. I am just awareness. I am of the nature of silence. Nothing really happens in the core of my being. It was only some hasty false identification. I was clinging to an image of mine. And once I was clinging to this image, there was hurt, there was sorrow, there was insult. I felt a whole lot of things. And what a turmoil it was. But the whole thing was within the paradigm of clinging, identification, attachment. But this morning, as I am sitting in my balcony, one morning you may feel, it seems to me that all that was meaningless. Even when somebody said some nasty things about me, I didn't have to take it to heart at all. Anyway, at least now I have this understanding. You smile and take one more sip of your tea, let's say, sitting in the balcony. Uninvited, unexpectedly, you get jnana. Jnana utpatti dvarena. Rest of it in this paragraph is Adi Shankara's quotations. Jnanam utpadyate pumsam kshayat papasya karmanaha yata darshatale prakhye pasyatyatmanam atmani. A portion in the Mahabharata, in the Shanti Parva, is called Moksha Dharma. Shanti Parva has, as you know, Mahabharata has 18 Parvas. Shanti Parva is the 12th, starting from Adi Parva, going all the way up to Swarga Arohana Parva. We have 18 Parva. Parva is translated as cantos. So huge sections. And Shanti Parva is the largest. That one has, among many other things, the wonderful instructions that Bhishma gives to Yudhishthira. Bhishma was an unbelievably huge repository of knowledge. Dharma Shastra as well as Moksha Shastra. So he teaches Yudhishthira Raja Dharma, Kshatriya Dharma, the science of administration. That is a separate part. And then Sri Krishna nudges Yudhishthira, ask him more, ask him about Moksha Shastra. And then Yudhishthira asks Bhishma, who is on his deathbed. As all of you know, he is lying on a bed of arrows, waiting for certain auspicious time to come when he would die of his own desire, his own will. That is called Ichha Marana. So Ichha Marani Bhishma instructs Yudhishthira on Moksha Shastra also. That portion is Moksha Dharma. And Moksha Dharma, part of Shanti Parva, the 12th one, 12th Parva of Mahabharata. This is all, as you know, after the war. As you know, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 5 Parvas are when the war is on. Then 11th Parvas, 3 Parva also is in a way connected to the war when so much death has taken place. Gandhari and so many other ladies, they cry inconsolably. Recently, in the light of or in the context of the trouble in Afghanistan, somebody sent a message. Could be true. Gandhari got so sad. She lost all her 100 sons, right? And she was from Afghanistan. She then cursed Shakuni. She then cursed some other heroes of Afghanistan, her Gandhara Desha. It is all you who caused this. See, Shakuni had not done all the mischief he had done. Mahabharata would not have taken place. So maybe Shakuni was already dead and gone by now when Gandhari cursed, whatever. But Gandhari then curses that country of Gandhara, which is today called Afghan, which has a city even today called Kandahar, which is a form of Gandhara. She cursed, I believe, Afghanistan. You caused the death of my 100 sons. May you have never true progress, true peace. That is how Afghanistan today is in a pitiable condition. So much of infighting, so much of confusion, chaos, and everything to be sorted out through violence. Tush, tush, tush. With guns and so on. How sad. So, Shankara quotes this shloka from Moksha Dharma. Stri Parva is when all those ladies wail. It's called Stri Parva, 11. Bhishma Parva, Drona Parva, Karna Parva, Shalya Parva, depending on the 4 generals who led the Kaurava army. 4 Parvas were named. Bhishma Parva is when war began and Bhishma was leading the Kaurava army, followed by Drona. Bhagavad Geetā took place during Bhishma Parva because Bhishma was in charge when the war began. The first 10 days, Bhishma was the general on the side of Duryodhana. So, Sauptika Parva is the 5th one, but let's come back. 12th is the Shanti Parva. That is where all these peaceful discussions, satsangs, learning takes place. In Moksha Dharma, this much quoted shloka says, Pumsam Jnanam Utpadyate. People get that liberating knowledge. Kshayat Papasya Karmanaha. When sinful actions were done long back, their tendencies, the vasanas left behind by them, sanskaras left behind by them, kshayat, when they go away. Just as adarshatale prakhe, when the surface of a mirror is cleaned, how one can see one's own face clearly. Like that here, a sadhu sees her own pure self in her antakarana. Mirror stands for antakarana. In our very antakarana, where earlier we felt we were hurt, insulted, we were made to feel so small by so and so on, we felt small on occasions. All that was ignorance. Now we see in that same antakarana, we are the unbounded pure self. Ityadi smaranat. By virtue of its power, though Moksha Dharma is considered part of a Itihasa, Mahabharata, it is elevated to the position of Smriti, like Bhagavad Geetā. Geetā also is Smaranat, Smriti, though Geetā is part of an Itihasa. Geetā is not Shruti, the highest source, nor is Moksha Dharma Shruti, but they are elevated to the position of Smriti. Ityadi Smaranat, Anarambat, Ananushtanat, Naishkarmyam. Literally, Naishkarmya means Nishkarma Bhava, when you don't do anything. But it is not the outer absence of action, it is the cessation of inner sense of doership. Karma shunyatam dana yogena. No karma at all inwardly. 9 out of 10 may not do outwardly also. They may do just a little of sharira dharana nimittam. But people like King Janaka did a lot of karma outwardly. But they were established in Naishkarmya. Jnana yogena nishtam nishkriya atmaswarupena avasthanam. That is to be underlined. What is Naishkarmyam? Atma, the pure self, is Nishkriya. Nishkriya atmaswarupena avasthanam. You stay as the pure self. You stay as I have no punya, no papa, no birth, no death. Shivoham, Shivoham. That won't come about by simply saying tomorrow onwards I am not going to lift a blade of grass. I call it quits now. And so on with respect to duties. With respect to what is not your duty, please do. You must, as early as possible, withdraw from it. If we examine in the life of all of us, we have a bunch of things which are, of course, our duties, and then we are into many things which are none of our business. We just poke our nose into many other matters. Because of vasanas, because of urges. We try to do this, we try to do that, we get into this, we get into that, we get into others matters. So those have to be given up, anarambha. But what our own conscience says, this is your duty. You have to do this. No one else will do this. It's you, you must do it. And so on. With regard to them, by simply suddenly stopping, you won't come to Atma Jnana. Na ashnute, na prapnoti, iti arthaha. Here also, short, not much detailed paragraphs, 2 of them follow. In fact, Adi Shankara in the first paragraph we covered hasn't touched upon the second half of the shloka yet. That will come in the third paragraph of the 3 paragraphs of commentary on this 4th shloka in this 3rd chapter. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.